Oh, look at that.
Well, look at that. What do you got there?
Oh, just the new RAM kit that I was trying to figure out. So I told you I got the new PC, right? And I
Yeah.
had everything set up.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
problem is I had 32 gigs of RAM in the configuration, and I was trying to go to 64. And every time they sent me a kit, they would send me a different serial kit, or like they're not
Oh,
compatible.
yeah. That's no
So
good.
they finally sent me. Well, I'm gonna say it's an empty kit because it's in the PC. But I finally got everything in there last night, and my system is finally up and running. And I just dropped the box. So yeah,
Well, that's great. Well,
that's how we do it.
congratulations. I'm glad that's working better for you
It's like
now.
of all things to go south, that was the one thing that yeah. Sorry. So yeah, no, it's been a busy week, right? What have you been up to?
Oh, just kind of hanging out, doing whatever, just chilling, getting ready for the summer. It's all good. I
Yeah.
mean, no, NBD, right? What's going on in the world of tech? Samsung didn't make any announcements. Apple didn't make any announcements. So basically, there's nothing to talk about. Well,
No,
folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week,
on
and
the best of our week, AI,
have
AI,
fun
AI,
using
AI.
some tech. And then it would work better if, like, when I did that, it actually blacked out. Oh wait, there we go.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta
they did.
actually like reach all the way to cover the camera
Juan
lens.
has to do extra reach on that one. Yeah. So
Holy cow, we can't go like over 2 hours. My voice can't handle it. I've been shooting so much over the last couple days like the whole week leading up to this week that like
any
my voice is
survivors?
totally shot. I just like it's functional.
I no
It
no
is
no.
so much work just to get me to
I
Audible.
will I will do as much as I can to help leverage the echo or the vocal work that we need to do today. But with that being said, I do want to say on a very very badly presented introduction as we typically do it because this is our fashion. Welcome to the best of our week on this beautiful Friday. Come on, help me out on this one. Friday what? 14, 11, 10, 12, 13? Wait, I don't even know what Friday it is. I'm like, dang it. Okay, the 12. Okay,
Yeah.
welcome,
Oh,
welcome.
oh, sorry. I didn't know you were kind of reaching for that. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
literally just tweeting our show out now. So
absolutely.
I was
We
I'm way
totally got
behind.
this. It's on.
It's
It's
great.
definitely
It's
yeah.
great.
It is.
We're
It is.
professionals.
Shinnels with the yeah. With that being said, I mean realistically, it's been a busy week. It's been a crazy busy week. If the word of the week is AI, as Google would put it, our word of the week was embargo, embargo, embargo.
Embargo.
Embargo, embargo. We could just have a conversation, say embargo back and forth, like I am Groot or
Embargo.
Sildar.
Embargo.
Embargo,
Embargo.
embargo, embargo, embargo. All right, embargo. We had a couple of good video come out. There's a lot more stuff obviously coming out, but the biggest thing obviously we talked about earlier this week we started was we had a chance to spend some time with a very nice little budget device called the Poco F5. Both of us
Yeah.
had an opportunity to play with surprisingly not the same color this time. I think you and I had slightly different tones. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize it, so let me see if I can get the Sony. Yep, Sony likes mine. Okay, here we are. So Juan got the. Oh,
Kind of
yours
like a
has.
frost.
It does. There's a little bit more blue at the bottom. I
Yeah.
see
And
that.
see,
Okay, so Juan
it's
got the
got that
cool
like
color.
it's got that like
TK.
reflective etching on it. It's like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
comic book special edition from the 1990s with
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
foil print.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly, exactly. That reflective metallic look on the comic book. Oh man, you're taking me back on this one. I
Good
was watching.
times.
I saw a TikTok. Somebody was saying, "Is don't mess with Gen X. We're older than Google." It's like, oh my
Isn't
god,
that sad? Like as
it
my
is
kids grow up,
sad.
I'm gonna be like, "What was life like before the internet?" Oh God,
We
I
are the
am
last
that
generation
old.
to remember that, though. That's the weird part. We
Oh,
grew up without the internet to a certain point, obviously.
yeah,
And then AOL was introduced. And even then, the internet wasn't what the internet is today. And
yeah, pretty gross.
yeah, yeah. Crap. Two old dudes hanging out. But no,
Yeah,
seriously, the Poco F5 for me was a very. I mean, so there was two devices announced. Poco
yeah.
Global announced two, the F5 and the F5 Pro. Both of those are global edition devices that they're going to be available in respective markets. The biggest thing I think for both of us though is we got a chance to play with a SoC that is just coming off hot off the presses.
Yeah. 7 Plus Gen 2 Snapdragon is gonna be good times. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking
Oh no,
about.
no, absolutely. But not only with that, but for me, I felt like it's that processor that really made the F5 for me a little bit more appealing than the F5 Pro. And I'm not going against the F5 Pro. I feel like the F5 Pro is a powerhouse with the 8 Plus Gen 1 and the different specifications in there, the higher refresh rate, the higher not the higher refresh rate, the higher resolution display, and of course having the design slight difference in there in the stack on the back.
But we're gadget reviewers, and while the F5 Pro is leaning on Poco's traditional philosophy of using the last year's premium.
Yeah, they were running
SoC.
the 870 for quite some time too. Yeah.
And the I mean, I want to say I think one of the most successful Poco F series was like using an 870, right? So like that's always been kind of the traditional strategy. It's a flagship killer, and the reason why you can offer super high performance but at really low costs is because they're using these components kind of out of season, if you will. So the
Still
F5
quite
Pro,
capable, but yeah, for sure.
I think still fits that, especially compared to like the F3 and the F4. It's very much in that model. The F5 is interesting for being the first to offer this look at the bleeding edge of the upper premium mid-range.
Like literally just announced not
It's
even a
the
month and
very
a half ago
first, right.
processor. It is literally the first. And the last thing I will say on the F5 Pro, the F5 Pro did technically do somewhat of a generational leap forward.
Yeah.
Poco kind of they were riding the 8 series or the 865, the 865 Plus, and then the 870 for a while, knowing
Yeah.
that the 888 and the 8 Gen 1 weren't really doing it because of the performance. I'm probably assuming the price point as well. They weren't breaking even.
Well, and also that period was where Poco, I think a lot of Poco phones took a step down for other features to then step up for 5G. I remember
That's
my
true.
Poco,
We had a few 5Gs.
the X series videos got savaged because Poco fans did not like their X series moving to a more mid-pack SoC.
Exactly.
Where again, like a previous X series would have had an older 8 series SoC. So the F5 is using the 7 Plus Gen 2. I have finally, because I've been holding off. We had the OnePlus Pad, we had the Poco, I had the Xiaomi 13 Ultra.
You did.
We had the Xperia. We had so many product embargoes. I did not want to have to write benchmark slideshows for every single phone launching within days for every single embargo. So I waited until all of
You
them
just
lifted.
release a deck. You'll be like,
And so
enjoy the
now-
show.
On the Patreon, I have all of the performance charts where you can see how the phones compete for video rendering, podcast mixing, batch photo processing, compression. I'm talking to one of the buddies on the Discord, and we might start looking at crypto mining as
Oh,
a
wow.
benchmark,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to
yeah.
really see like what kind of hash rate can you get on a phone. That's stupid, but you could do it.
Get
So
some money.
the 7 Plus Gen 2, I mean, to not completely spoil, all of those charts are now available on patreon.com/somegadgetguy.
And the link for that will be in the show note, in the description as well. But yes, please.
But the 7 Plus Gen 2 is largely living up to that rumored expectation of this being somewhere in between an 888 Plus and an 8 Gen 1, but with the TSMC fab giving us better thermal performance and better power management. So
Yes, absolutely.
where we are in the mid-range, I've been making this joke for a while. Like, I don't feel average consumers really take advantage of performance above a Snapdragon 845 like years ago.
No,
You know,
I mean,
what would have been a
yeah.
top of the line SoC. And now in our mid-range, in a phone that is early bird selling for under $400, it's roughly, like, accounting for exchange, it's roughly a $380 phone.
And
in
that's on the
US
higher end. I
dollars.
think it starts at 329 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah.
No, I mean I'm sorry, in the configuration that we tested, because I got the
256
gig.
Yeah, same. You're
sorry. Yeah, other bits and pieces. Sure.
Other things.
We are matching and sometimes besting the performance of phones that would have cost $1,000 at the beginning of last year, and that is ridiculous tech evolution going into the mid-range. And also, where I've got a performance profile, I kind of appreciate that the F5 keeps the headphone jack over the F5 Pro.
I was surprised to see
It's
that
a more
that's a pro
practical
feature to
phone.
be like when I
You
was
got
kind
rid of a good feature.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we had stereo speakers, which is nice. We have, we have the high refresh rate on both devices, and for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, I think also that the camera stack is exactly the same. They didn't really change them.
Yeah, it seems
Capabilities are
similar.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the hardware is the same. but the headphone jack was the decision. Say premium phones don't need headphone jack. I'm like,
You already spent more on the phone. Don't you want to spend more
no, no,
on
no, no.
Bluetooth
I would
earbuds?
say Sony would have a little bit of an argument there, but let's talk about that in a little
Well,
bit
we're
later
gonna
in the
save
conversation.
Sony.
We are gonna
We are
deep dive
purposely
into that
saving
headphone
Sony
jack
for last so that we can spend the most amount of time on Sony. Sorry,
because
guys,
you
we just
know we
got to
could
go
talk
along for the
Sony.
ride on it.
We could, yeah,
But
no,
this is the radical
yeah,
competitive difference that we're seeing internationally,
hmm
where we're going to talk about Google I/O and the Pixel 7a,
of course,
but Google is trying to move up the food chain. The Pixel 7a is a
quite a
great
bit
upgrade
actually
over the
on
6a.
all of their fronts. Google like pretty much. Like they just said, the last couple of years we've been basically ramping up to go back to the 4 years ago of our version of
Hmm.
something.
So
Yeah,
now this
yeah,
is
yeah.
an opportunity. It's just like the opportunity where from the Galaxy S20 to the S21, Samsung cut a bunch and dropped prices. But then they've been slowly ratcheting up their prices
Yep.
again. And so now in the mid range, we're seeing a similar strategy play out where a number of bigger manufacturer. Like Google is a strong player, Samsung is a strong player.
Hmm.
But if you play around with hardware versus software versus the expectation on years of software updates, you can cut a significant amount of money off of better hardware.
Yeah.
And we're having that hardware software fight play out again, where
Yep.
a Pixel 6a or a Pixel 7a might be a better fit for someone who's really concerned about all of the yearly iterations and updates and patches and bug
And the 6A
fixes.
is at 350 now too. So they didn't really discontinue the 6A. They kept it.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that I mean, but this is where I'm kind of nudging. Um, it's very specific. We have to get very granular where a Tensor 2 can hang with a 7 Plus Gen 2 and where the 7 Plus Gen 2 will win fights and where a Tensor will lose fights. And
But
I
yeah,
feel like so many of our tech commentators aren't really prepared for that conversation when we're talking about phones sub $400.
exactly.
Like
What?
that idea of performance has never really been a consideration there, but your ability to cut 4K video on a sub $400 phone is laptop grade now. This $400 phone outperforms my Surface Laptop Go 2. I mean, by a lot.
Oh no,
By a lot, a lot.
yeah.
So,
I will say the usability of our processing power has been well underutilized for the last few years. Many
yeah.
people don't realize, like you said, the 845 would be more than enough for some people these days, and I agree. No, there's very small use cases where a higher performance processor has been giving us the benefit for the general use of just scrolling the internet, doing normal things, and making sure that the phone is responsive, your cameras are taking good images. And keep in mind, we're not talking about the fact that you can't utilize the higher performance there, but there are use cases now: gaming, rendering, processing podcasts, processing audio, things that are typically done on a PC. And when you're starting to do those on the go on your phone, this is where you start pushing the limitations of some of the things you can do. The 7 Plus, for me at least, the 7 Plus Gen 2, although they did technically skip numbers because they went from the 7 1, so from the 7 Gen 1 to the 7 Plus Gen 2. So they're telling you that
Hmm.
they've gone quite a bit further.
Yeah.
Is for me at least is not only obviously the best of Qualcomm's SoC offering at this point, but like you said, the TSMC manufacturing, the 4 nanometer architecture, the low power consumption. This is why in my video, and I want to kind of tease all of it, I actually felt like the F5 was the better buy this year than the
I think
F5
so.
Pro. Not
I agree.
because I didn't have the F5 Pro,
Yeah.
but because of a spec for spec, same size battery. There was like 100 milliampere of difference between the two. Like they gave an extra
Yeah.
100 for that extra for the display,
And
but
I feel like in this market, like we're drilling down into features like 4K 60 versus 4K 30 video, and I don't know that that's really the make or break feature for someone to spend more and lose a headphone jack. I think in
well,
that tier,
but that
I
was the
feel
other.
like the F5,
Yeah.
makes some targeted compromises. You do. They're still
I
trying to draw the line in the sand, even though we know it has the performance
capability.
to
Yeah, I
really
was gonna
deliver those
say the
features.
765 was shooting 4K 60. I mean, I remember the whole,
Yeah.
the seven, the what's it called, the
Pixel
4K 60
5.
gate. Remember that where
Oh
you
yeah.
couldn't shoot more than 20 minutes. Like we know it can. It's and so we know the 7
Right.
Plus Gen 2 can shoot the 4K 60,
For
and maybe we
sure.
will see that later. But Poco had to draw the line in the
You know what?
sand where
I'm gonna while we're talking, I'm gonna. Oh, I don't even know if this is charged. I was running this phone hard. Nope, it's
the
out.
F5
So it's gonna take like 5 minutes to charge it. Let me just
because
plug it in here
because
real
it's
quick.
Poco. It's 67 watts, baby. No. There's quite a bit of things that you can do, and obviously, if you install a third-party app, I think you should be able to unlock.
I want to see,
7.4.
yeah, if it really has all of the API access, we might be able to get 4K 60 going through like motion cam or something like
Oh,
that. But
that would
anyway,
be epic. Anyway, yeah.
we can save that. I'll plug around on this and we'll report back later on in the podcast.
Well,
But
I think it's a good
the
segue to jump into a little bit of
Google I/O.
I/O, my friend. Yeah, no.
Because this is we're now using. How funny is it? We used to go to like CES for all the announcements, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you knew the tech press was going to show up in person. Then big companies started doing their own side press conferences like right before the big trade shows so that they could kind of
Samsung used to be pretty big about
steal
that.
the thunder.
Yeah.
And now it seems like when there's a big WWDC or Google I/O or Samsung Unpacked, all of the other manufacturers are timing their embargoes to lift just before. Like the Poco embargo was just before Google
Dude,
I/O.
no. It was not only just before. So between Poco and Sony, we were like you have this much space to go in to make your
I
I/O.
didn't do any Google I/O coverage.
I didn't have time.
I jumped right from Poco
as
to
I/O
Sony.
was going, I was shooting my video. I was finishing parts of my video. We had, and we're going to talk about Sony, but the reality, we didn't have that much time with the Sony to be able to put out our initial video. I mean, we're going to be putting out more content, but to be very
Had
fair,
to shoot it all ahead. Yeah.
we had the F5 and the Sony running neck and neck, and for some folks, they even had the Huawei. Huawei was going on top
Yeah.
of Poco in the morning. Like, oh come on, like all the company. This is really.
I
This
want
is
to play
vicious.
with that Huawei so bad.
Oh,
I was
absolutely.
So
The PC
glad it didn't
yeah.
show up.
Oh,
I've
dude, that would've been
never,
tough.
I've never been in
I would have
a
imploded.
situation like this where it's like I desperately want to play with all of these, but I know I can't. So I hope I don't get them. Is weird.
It's a
That's
so
tough.
I'll say that the P60 Pro will still have its own audience and will still have its own presence,
Oh,
and I think
sure.
that coverage will come. But yeah, no, there was a whole bunch of things going on, and of course, Apple decides to drop their whole Final Cut Pro on M1 on Monday. Like, come on! Like, if there's, I think we
you
are going to get
still-
to.
Do
Sorry,
you use Final Cut at all?
absolutely not.
No, I
Absolutely
mean,
not, my friend. No,
you're
I never
you're
dabbled.
pretty much a full DaVinci Resolve convert at this point.
DaVinci not only Resolve all the way, like on everything, desktop,
Nice.
laptop. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the power of the M1. I appreciate what the Apple Silicon can do, and I also love the optimizations done. But the biggest thing for me is on a trip while I'm working and everything. I've gone full Mac M1 Pro or M1 Ultra on M1 Max, sorry, for editing on the go with my laptop. I don't need Final Cut. I realize Final Cut is more efficient and everything, but I like to keep my process consistent. And
Sure.
DaVinci does the job very nice. I mean, Premiere would do
Yeah.
the same, but DaVinci for me, it runs really good. I still haven't even ran it on my desktop PC yet with the new system. I got everything set
Yeah.
up. I just need to install the profiles and all of that. So DaVinci for me, yeah. So Final Cut to me, that was a good news, but it just, yeah, it doesn't really help me.
I was kind of torn on behalf of Apple owners because Apple seems to be doing this thing where if a company starts building a little momentum on a service, then Apple comes in and says, "Oh, but we can also do it too." And so, like, yeah, you want Final Cut to be on your Premiere iPad, and it's kind of silly that Final Cut didn't beat DaVinci Resolve, but it's like DaVinci Resolve had to prove that market for Apple first, and now Apple's going to roll in and try and steal their thunder. But I'm putting it out there again, like, this is an opportunity to switch. I think a subscription model for a mobile version of Final Cut is a bad deal, that
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
constantly going to be paying for it forever. DaVinci Resolve's business model, I think, is more fair, especially if you're a smaller creator. You're looking at years of production, like you think you're going to be in this for a while.
You still have to buy it
And
again, I think, for the iPad, if I remember
you do.
correctly. It
You
wasn't the
totally
same.
do.
Yeah, this was one thing
For
that
sure.
didn't allow the license to transfer. So,
But
yeah.
but it's also like LumaFusion. I bought LumaFusion once on the iPhone. I have never spent another nickel on owning the core program. I mean, there are plugins and stuff that you can buy.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
bought it twice, but yeah, let's
it's
let's
been
not, let's not
amazing.
make
So
it
no,
about it.
I've purchased 3 LumaFusion licenses.
The Android,
at this
yeah,
point.
on the Android side, I bought it twice. That's right.
So and I'm including my iOS version in there for buying 3. So buying 3 versions of LumaFusion, I'm still well under a year's subscription of
So
Final Cut.
I
So
I understand the benefit of what they're doing. Obviously, bringing the technology to the Apple M1. I mean, and I'll say this: for any DaVinci owner, I don't feel like this announcement made any change. DaVinci owners that are using them on the M1 or they're using it on any or a system, jumping to Final Cut wouldn't necessarily be the main. It's not going to be like, oh my God, Final Cut is available. They're going to jump over. Apple's really just feeding into their own core base that didn't go with
yeah.
DaVinci. That's the ones that they're
Well, and
cultivating.
they'll use their position in the market to give themselves an unfair advantage in marketing and highlighting their own services, because there's no
course.
regulatory body that's ever going to stop Apple from advertising themselves at their competitors' expenses on their own products. But I feel like this is a smart time to look at making the transition. If you were really seriously considering trying to work out in the field, doing video editing work on an iPad, which I think is legit, and I think LumaFusion proved that as a
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
You can do phenomenal work out in the field on mobile video editing apps, but this would be a good time to look at switching to DaVinci Resolve. Because if you're really serious about this, Resolve will follow you to any platform you want to go. Final Cut means you're locked into the Apple ecosystem and you can't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So if you want to, at some point, 20 years from now, you get all bitter and cranky like me and you throw your hands up in the air and say, hey, I just want a stupid Linux computer for my next computer, DaVinci Resolve will follow you there. Final Cut isn't going to do anything for you. And those years that you've been working, you will have paid way less for DaVinci Resolve
it was
than you will
the
have
reason
for
I
Final Cut.
left. I can't even remember the name of the app. Power Director. I was in love with Power Director. I even
I
paid
loved
the
Power
license
Director.
for Power Director. But Power Director messed up everybody on mobile and basically said, forget about it. You paid for us. Don't worry about it. We're going to start charging. And if you want to use our service, you can use it really badly or start, all of that. And at that point, I just dropped it. I said, I'm not going to use your product. I'm not going to put any money into your ecosystem. And LumaFusion has obviously fixed that problem for us because it is functional. I was jokingly yesterday when I was done posting the video and everything. I need to cut down the video because I like to produce different parts of it. And I was editing all of that on LumaFusion on the Xperia 1 Mark V. So there was a lot of things that you could do and really use to push the benefits of your device. But subscription based, although beneficial for, and I get the process. It's a model. Premiere does it. I used to be part of the original CCs, and now obviously Premiere is a yearly subscription. It's not monthly, and you know what you're getting into.
When Adobe made that switch, though, I feel like we were all entranced with the promise of them making bigger strides.
Absolutely.
I'm paying for this subscription model because I know they're going to be giving me up to the minute support. We're going to be delivering all of these new features, and instead, it kind of just became a different way for them to
Beta test.
hold steady with more iterative improvements and polish, and then it never really lived up to the expectations that we had. So then I tried the free version of DaVinci, and that blew me away. I literally only paid to get GPU support for GPU render, and since then I've not looked back. So I didn't want to completely derail like
I know
we just
the
did.
whole conversation where I.O. was
So
nothing to do
Google
with it.
I/O.
Yeah, Google I/O. Back to the fun part. I will say, so okay, I/O this year has been a little bit, it was actually kind of going back to what 2019 version of I/O was. And this was actually the last time I actually went. I didn't go to this one, but in I/O 2019, where they invited, media and content creators and so on, we were able to go in and we were able to actually be part of the show. That was the big event there. We saw some of our friends kind of joining in there and enjoying the show. Team Pixel, I think, was represented there as well. This year has been hardware centric a little bit, but also hardware. Some hardware was missing, which was also the other surprise. The word AI was said approximately a gazillion time, I think, if not mean. The word responsibly and AI were said so often that you wanted to remember that Google will treat AI responsibly, and I think I got the message.
Right.
Good job on that one.
Sure.
No, no. I think there was a lot of things to be talked about. AI was a big point. Bard is going to get a lot more functionalities. A lot more content is going to be pushed into AI processing, integration with their workplace. So for business, for their clients, there's a lot of things going on in the background, and I think that's what Google focused on that about an hour and 40 minutes of their show before they jumped into that 20-minute. I would call it like basically sprint through hardware, where all of us were kind of waiting there, but we finally saw, obviously, the Pixel Fold. The not room well, it was rumored but confirmed a couple of days before.
Yeah.
The device, the hardware, the looks, and of course the features. We
Hmm.
also saw the Pixel 7a, which we all again heard about. So I'll go ahead and put that up here. Let's see if we can
There
get it
you
to focus.
go.
Yeah.
I like
So
that color. That is pretty clean.
I was surprised. Yeah. So I was kind of surprised that my local Best Buy had this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. As I was sitting through I/O, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I was ordering because I put in my order on Google's site, and you get a free case, and you get, I think it was like but the Pixel Buds A series in there for free. So it's actually a pretty
Hey,
decent
that's cool.
deal if you get it from them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't gonna get the phone till today, like today in the afternoon. It would have been shipped.
Yeah.
And then
Too long.
too long.
I need
So
satisfaction
so
today. Good
I
sir.
decided to pull a page out of my buddy Juan Carlos' book from a few years ago, specifically 2019, when the Pixel
Sure.
3a came out.
Right.
And I just drove I drove my butt straight to Best Buy, and I'm like, no, I take that back. Went on Best Buy site, ordered it, set it up to pick up. 45 minutes later, it was ready. I got in there, picked up the phone, and
Yeah.
walked out. So the announcement that we got there with the Pixel 7a, no surprise, as you said, G2, Tensor G2, slightly different approach to the A series this year, and
It's
we're gonna see
almost a Pixel 7.
it's
It's a minor difference in the camera sensor,
it's a,
and
yeah
it's pretty close.
it's a well, for me though, like, okay, so I've had about 24 hours with it, and I will say that it's a little bit of it feels. I never played with the 7. I'll be very
Hmm.
honest. I had the 7 Pro, and I still have the 7 Pro somewhere. It's
Yeah.
right there. Sorry. Exactly. The biggest thing I probably would say, aesthetically, looks very very similar to the Pixel 6a, and the 6a is still available. So now Google has the 6a at 350, the 7 at 5, the 7a at 5, the 7 at 6, and then the 7 Pro at
7
8,
Pro.
799 or
Yeah.
899, depending on what you're getting. So they have a lineup of devices, but it's
Hmm.
starting to get a little bit blurry between where do you go, what to
Well,
get.
I feel like we're not going to keep the 7 and 7 Pro when the 8 and 8 Pro come
Oh,
out.
no,
So
no,
I think the
absolutely.
7A
We'll
is
we'll make more sense as we
replacing
get.
the 7,
Yeah.
and then we'll get an 8, which is probably going to be another $50 price hike. And then we'll get an 8 Pro, and I'm not sure if they'll be brave enough to raise the price on the 8 Pro. But now we'll have a quartet. Instead
Yeah.
of a trio of devices, we'll have a quartet of phones at different price points. And
Well, and the
it's
6A at some point obviously will have to retire. They're not going to keep running the
sure.
Tensor G1 because more than likely I think what they're doing now is they're running just whatever stock they have left. They're not producing the G1. They're obviously going to focus on the G2 for now, and then of course the G3 when it comes
Yeah.
out as we get closer. Which is the other thing, we didn't hear anything about the 8 and 8 Pro, which I was expecting from last year. Like not even a
Yeah.
teaser of a device design,
Nope.
because they did again that 20-minute sprint, and they're like, what can we do in the last 20 minutes? Okay, focus on what we can do right now and things that can order. So go on the Pixel Fold. The tablet was finally showed, we finally see it, and it's not going to be available till, if I'm not mistaken,
It's
Q3.
great that like literally minutes after
Yeah.
the tablet. I mean, in the keynote, minutes after the tablet was sort of showcased at Google I/O, I got a comment on my OnePlus Pad video. The Pixel tablet demolishes this, and it's basically the same price. You're like, are you writing headlines for BuzzFeed? You know they're axing their news department, right? You don't have to do all their work for free, man. Demolishes the one.
Blah, blah, blah. No, I know.
Or like, I was pleasantly surprised. I would like to pat ourselves on the back, you and me here, buddy,
Peace. Yeah,
because how many other videos and live streams have you been sitting through where someone is out there in front of their camera saying things like, I think Pixel's gonna have like a good foldable. I think it'll be really worth it if they can come in like $1,200 or $1,300 and undercut the Z Fold. And I would be in the chat saying, one, Google's not going to do that because
No.
hinges are stupid expensive. Two, you don't want them to do that because we don't want to devalue foldables before they really find their footing. And three,
or their
it's just going
partners.
to make
But yeah.
it's just going to make all foldables look cheap Android for when Apple comes out with a foldable at like $29.99.
$29.
You know, like it's going to set up a narrative today
Yeah.
that is going to pay off and enrich Apple later on. We were in the Discord talking about prices dropping rapidly on the Z Fold 4.
Oh my God!
Right now,
No, exactly. Yeah.
an iPhone 14 Pro is holding higher average. I'm sorry, an iPhone 14 Pro Max is holding higher average used prices than a Z Fold 4. A Z Fold 4 in mint condition is going to sell for less than an iPhone 14 Pro Max. And this is all just the emotional perception of Apple versus Android. Because it has nothing to do with the meritocracy of the device or the technology that's built into it. I'm not a Samsung fan, but that's dumb. That's dumb that Samsung's resale value has plummeted that hard on these products.
And they stopped doing
that,
that fake inflation that they do every year with trade-ins. And I think that was
sure.
the weird. They realized. I mean, well, the reality is, I mean, it's really unsustainable. You can't really keep
For sure.
inflating it every year and losing money on trade-ins every year. But
it's the thing that we were trying to point out. We were in our own live stream, and then we've also been in other videos saying like, it's not the specific SoC or camera in the phone. As soon as you add a hinge, if you're really paying that phone off and the company is making a profit on that, the hinge itself is engineered at almost $1,000. So whatever you pay above that is the tech of that phone. It's the same trap that the LG Wing fell into. It's only got a mid-ranger processor. That's dumb. I can get that processor in a $400 phone. And you're like, yeah, but it's not a dual display phone with crazy features and a swivel hinge and all of this advanced functionality, all of the extra software and development that has to go into that. Thankfully, Google has benefited from Microsoft and Samsung, so that Android 13 can handle that better, but it's still not, oh, I just put this processor in there, and so the processor means it's only $400. That's what I'll pay for a Pixel foldable. It's $400. Like, we've completely lost that because the rest of it, the same thing happened to the Moto Razr. It's only got a 765, and they're going to charge me like $1,300 for this. A hinge and making it somewhat lifestyle durable is a ridiculously expensive feature.
But it's also the support. We have to keep in mind that when a company releases a foldable, they also need to release the support function for it.
Yeah.
Samsung's support. I mean, if
the entire ecosystem changes.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem that comes with it. Google didn't talk about it, but Google literally just launched an ecosystem for their foldables because they need to support those devices at $1,800
repairs,
when something
replacements.
happens. And I will say this: there's a few decisions in the hardware that they decided to go with that actually I felt like were functional. That they were actually smartly trying to go into it and reducing the amount of things that could potentially go. I'd say probably, although some people don't like it, the bezel is actually functional on this. This device on the inside, the display, having the camera not be a punch hole or a hidden camera meant they actually were able to put better hardware.
Nice.
Giving you the ability of holding the device in a better configuration definitely works well. And honestly, my biggest thing, they won me at this. The fact that they went with this form factor over, hold on, not that I don't have the
over the portrait orientation
of the portrait orientation of the Z Fold 4.
Z-Fold. Yeah.
Absolutely, because I always do this. I always twist the like it was never a situation where, like, you know what? I actually like to use my phone this way because this is the right. No.
So I'll be curious to see if the tensor in this is gimped because of the form factor of the device, because we know Samsung's.
I like the ability of just setting up all of that stuff.
It's so great.
No, seriously, like everybody's comparing it to the N2, obviously the N2 Fold here. Right? To me, like Oppo set the way. I mean, honestly, actually, I take that back. Microsoft started off with the right thing with the Duo, and,
I mean, it's
if
right
you look at
there.
the hinge, it's right there. If you look
right
at the
there on my
hinges on
bookshelf.
the Fold, the hinge, the top and the bottom, looks so much like the actual hinges that we have on the Duo. So to me, it was like you could definitely see where they got it. the fact that they released it, the fact that it's going to be available in literally about a month and a half is something
Hmm.
that's exciting. We finally have competition in the U.S. And I
Yeah.
and I say the word competition with a lot of asterisks next to it. There's competition
Yeah.
in the U.S.
There's
for
competition, and then there's US
U.S.
competition.
competition. Yeah, because the reality, yeah. Anyway, so that could be a whole other episode. Um, that you are going to see it at carriers. That was the other thing that I was surprised about because I didn't think it
Yeah.
was. I thought it was going to be just at Google, and it's going to be that's how they first. No, we got carriers who are going to actually put this device
Sure.
in the same area, in the
Yeah.
same store, I guess. The price is one thing, but that's again, we know that there are going to be specials.
Sure.
There'll be other things that comes later. This is MSRP
And I
that we're
kind of
hearing.
hope they're not crazy to start. I mean, I
I
feel
don't
if
think
Google
no
gets
no
gun shy and they start cutting prices or offering too many bundles or things, again, it sets up the failure of Android foldables. And the
absolutely.
psychology matters where
I just
they don't, they also can't upset Samsung, right? You can't
that was the
make
other thing. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
a
This is where
foldable that
the
completely
mechanics.
demolishes the Galaxy, because then Samsung's going to be like, well, we could make a Tizen phone and I'm going to use Bing for my search engine instead of Google. So there.
That
Because
no no no.
Samsung is, it doesn't matter how much you give them and how much you appease them, they will be the first to take their ball and go home. Samsung
Absolutely.
is so bitter about like being the Apple copycat brand from years past. You can't appease them in any way,
No,
shape,
no,
or
no,
form.
and to many levels, I think I actually don't really think Google's main point with the Pixel Fold is to sell crazy. Like they're not trying to make it as popular as their Pixel
No, it's
7 or
just a
Pixel
Halo
8. But
product to
it's a
show
Halo
where
product, absolutely.
tablets can go, for
And
sure.
and I feel like the way they're doing it in a very subtle way. And even if they will have promos and whatever.
Sure.
But the biggest thing that I'm saying, the reason why I'm excited about it is the fact that is if somebody goes into the store now and well once
They'll
they're
see one.
available, they're going to see two form factors. They're going to see Samsung's approach to this, and they're going to see what Google does. And I hope that when they hold it in their hand, that they realize the benefit of where Google's coming in. That display
Hmm.
on the front is way more functional than what we get on Samsung's because of the form factor. This is something I've ever since the original, and even with the Duo, but the Duo never had an external display. You flip the device all the way around. This is where, again, this is where Oppo has been doing it for me
Yeah.
ever since they released the first and two.
So this is coming back to the point I was making. Is it makes me concerned because Samsung components
Yeah.
are a little thermally challenged, and
Yes.
it's not difficult
And
running a Pixel 7 Pro a bit hotter. But
yeah.
now we're not really getting better surface area on foldables. If anything, where the components are stacked can potentially be a detriment to that. So
Yeah.
we're seeing a tablet come out. So on my performance charts on patreon.com/somegadgetguy, I was very pleasantly surprised to see where the One Plus pad was
Hmm.
hanging with the current Dimensity 9200 and 8 Gen 2 performance, because you got a bigger battery and more surface area to handle the thermals on a
Hmm.
big slate of a tablet. My hypothesis is that the Pixel tablet is going to outperform all of our phones, but I don't have a good guess on how the Pixel Foldable is going to compare to a Pixel 7 Pro. And that's some concerning idea when we're talking about $1,800. I mean, like, I've got a Pixel 7 Pro here,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter, like, if you're trying to tell me about Antutu scores and Geekbench numbers. Right now, if you want the fastest video rendering platform, it's the Pixel 7 Pro. Even the fanciest Qualcomm Snapdragon for Samsung chip version of the 8 Gen 2 loses out to
It.
to the Pixel 7 Pro in terms of video rendering.
Yeah.
I know that is a very specific use case, but to me that is illustrative of proper software optimization, good support from the manufacturer, and really leveraging these different side technologies. It's not
Hmm.
just how fast is CPU make computer go fast. It's, can you use your machine learning and AI hardware and your coprocessors and your ISP in novel ways to drive the display? It's why Vivos are so amazing at low light photography. You're chewing up image data in a really novel way.
Hmm.
It's not CPU make go fast. It's the entire SoC as a whole can contribute to rendering a podcast, editing a video,
Productivity,
working
yeah.
through large data sets or doing better file compression. I mean, again, if you care about document work, you would maybe care what phone is going to handle that CPU load better, because that's actually an area where Tensor doesn't do very well. But if you're going to sit here and tell me like a beta version of LumaFusion for Android is running significantly faster at rendering 4K video than the well-optimized version of LumaFusion for an iPhone on an iPhone 14 Pro Max, well, you can miss me with a Geekbench score. That is not important to me at all. But at $1,800, I will care if my Pixel 7 Pro is outperforming my Pixel Foldable in that kind of heavy data use.
And we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see at what their approach to it. And the reason why, I feel I understand why your concern is there. The battery on the Pixel 7, the Pixel Fold is smaller. Smaller than what we get, and rightfully so. We have to keep in mind, obviously, foldable.
I mean, it's
technology.
all of the engineering challenges.
Yeah, it's in the engineering challenges. There are some limitations. There's a reason why we haven't seen many.
But even for the smaller battery, it's the concern is, are the components stacked in a way where you can leverage the increased surface area of the foldable? And I'm not sure that that's a one-to-one. On a tablet, it immediately lets you use an SoC at a higher performance tier.
Yeah.
On a foldable, I don't know. This is such new territory for this style of
I will
computing.
say I did not feel like here, even when we're talking about the foldable here from Oppo, the way Oppo's approach to this, and we've seen this before with different versions of Oppo devices. You're able to actually go in under more settings. They kept the high performance setting. Hold on, let me see. Nope, did not mean to open this part. So high performance setting is still performed there. They still allow you to push the device to their perceived limit or the full sense of the processing power on this. Samsung has gone away from that. Actually, Samsung started purposely throttling, and only option you have for performance is auto mode on Samsung devices. So I feel like, if anything else, I feel like Google's probably going to follow that approach more so than...
they've never offered a high performance tier. Pixel has never been that kind of conversation, which is why it's also been so surprising that for this constant droning of, but the Geekbench scores and tensors are not good enough. That's why it's been so surprising to watch Pixels slap around iPhones in LumaFusion as a very specific use case in a world where every social media company is trying to copy TikTok with reels and shorts and small little snippets of video. It matters. I mean, it's funny. I came up with my 1 minute 4K video rendering test when I was still at Pocket Now. And it's never been more relevant than it is today. How quickly can you cut up and render a 1 minute high quality piece of video and get that uploaded to a social media site without having to turn to another computer or a laptop? And guess what? If you care about making your TikToks and reels and shorts, the Pixel is the fastest. Can you compromise for other features and go with a slower phone? Sure. Then you can buy a more expensive iPhone. Great. Go have fun rendering your video slower. But if you care, it is not about the Geekbench score. It's about
absolutely.
really
The
getting
Geekbench
the work
score
done.
has to a certain point, it's really more, for me at least, Geekbench is primarily a reference point. It is not I don't hold it to the word
it's
benchmark.
It's not even that anymore, because they still haven't really fixed this issue with Qualcomm on their GPU issues. What Geekbench should be is a way for you to detect if your phone is running poorer over time. It is not a good platform to compare the performance of different devices. It is very poor at predicting if your phone will perform better than another phone. But it is very good at saying, like, hey, when I got the phone, I got this kind of a Geekbench score. Then 2 software updates later, my score is down like 20%. Something must be up. But it's not even great at that anymore, because Geekbench 6 doesn't store the results for you. So you've got to screenshot all that.
Absolutely.
And I'm even less and less inclined to talk about Geekbench, because they're taking away what is one of the core benefits of their app, unless you want to paywall that, which is silly. It's silly to paywall sharing a kilobyte of information on your phone. It's
on your phone, exactly. It's stored on your phone, but to be able to access it. So they're forcing the screenshot. So the overall performance that we saw there
obviously
is the biggest thing that
I went off on that.
No. So the biggest thing that we saw there is that they released 2 devices yesterday, right, or this week, 2 devices with the G2, the 7A and the Pixel Fold. And I feel like from a horsepower processing, I'm hoping that obviously, the more RAM configuration, because you get more RAM with the Fold,
Sure.
I think 12 gigs of RAM, that then maybe will be more functional for you. Although I feel like with the Pixel launcher, and honestly, I'll be very frank, using it for a whole day, you wouldn't even know this is running less RAM than the 7 Pro. It
Yeah.
is so smooth. The optimizations, everything is in there.
The RAM gets us better multitasking performance. That's what
Absolutely.
we want RAM for, and that's why we want it on a tablet. I
Yeah.
think 8 GB of RAM on a phone is largely fine unless you're a heavy split screen user, or if you've got something like Dex or Ready for, you're
Yeah.
using that kind of functionality.
And none of that is here. No, I
You
know.
want to step up to more RAM.
Absolutely. And I think this is where something like the Edge Plus 2023 would be a very compelling device to think about. But I think one thing that we want to look at, just from our overall I/O announcement,
Sure.
the AI functions are going to be, so basically Google put forth in front of us that they're very much moving forward with better AI, incorporating AI on mobile. They want to bring more AI functionalities built into Gmail, Sheets, and bringing more AI functionality from making
Yeah.
Bard integrate with all of those services. So it sounds like Bard is becoming more of a center of the AI interface. And I'm not going to deny the fact that I use Bard. I like using Bard over ChatGPT. Just the interface is a little bit more intuitive for me, and it's just easier.
So someone asked Bard about some gadget guy, and apparently my name is John Biggs, and I have millions of subscribers, according to
John,
Bard.
nice meeting you, man. I
So
always thought
everybody,
Juan was John.
I have to now reveal.
So you're JB,
full-blooded
not
Hispanic.
JC. No, wait. Oh no,
No,
you're
I'm
still
I was
JB. No, I'm
JCB.
still- yeah,
I
you're
mean,
JCB.
it's right there, right in the corner of my screen. So apparently,
know me, I don't know
all
how to
this
read.
time, I have been doing Blanquito brown face because my name is really John Biggs. So
It would be epic if your name was John
it
Cena.
was nice to get the upgrade on my channel, right?
No,
'Cause,
absolutely.
from
I want to see John
150,000
Cena Bagnell, and then we can go from there. Right, Cena
love
with a
it.
C, right? Everybody
So-
with me on that one?
I know that's silly, but it's like for all of these language learning models, I really need them to cite their sources. Where did you get youtube.com/Juan Bagnell
No.
is hosted
John.
by a man named John Biggs? I don't understand.
John, you
So-
need to just stop it and just accept and move forward, man. I mean, come on. AI said a thing, and AI
I, for
is
one, welcome
never
our new
wrong.
AI overlords.
Absolutely. Welcome, Chad Lord. And
I like TK's like, shut up, don't question the board.
watch our channel entirely.
Just cut to black.
Chad comes
The
on
end
here.
of The
and-
Sopranos for our YouTube channels.
No,
Google sees all.
but I think this is literally like 90% of what they try to do. Obviously, we've had some
Yeah.
AI functions built in, quick reply. We've had obviously editing tools. They were trying to bring in more functional editing tools in there, and the few demos that they did where they moved the kid with the balloons to this, I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, Grandma's gonna definitely enjoy all those pictures, and Grandpa definitely gonna enjoy getting those centered images well exposed. With that being said, I think the excitement on the hardware is definitely very nice. There's going to be a lot of content coming up around that, of course. The 7A is available. You're able to pick it up if you'd like to check it out. The 6A is still available. And I'm actually kind of a little bit still debating if I want to upgrade Omar from the 5A at this point, because it's still, for me, kind of a weird. Like, I think the 765 has been working perfectly for him, and I don't really feel like he needs the 64 megapixels that are in here that may provide
Sure.
slightly better imaging processing. But
You-
we'll get
you-
into
you
that.
wanna, You want to hear something kind of funny?
Go. Yeah.
So my wife went from an LG G7 to a Pixel 4a 5G.
Yeah.
And again, for her, that was a lateral move because she went from a Snapdragon 845 to a 765, saw no difference. And in fact, for her, the Pixel was a better performer than that
Of course.
LG.
Yeah.
She has no interest in a Pixel 6a. We're talking about hanging out to see if we get an Xperia 5 Mark V. She's looking at making the jump to Sony so that she can keep a headphone jack. And she
Yes.
literally said to me, without me prompting her, because she's not super techie in my family, she's fine to let me just run IT for the whole house. But she said, like, no, I kind of feel like I want to spend money on that because other companies should see that I'm not giving them my business if they're going to get rid of the features that I like. And I went, okay,
No,
didn't push it.
no.
But we're looking to see if later on in the year there's an Xperia 5.5.
That's true. Yeah, the
And
announcement only included the 1 and the 10, but yeah.
because they did this to us last year. 2 years ago, they teased the 5 at the launch of the 1. Last year, I didn't think there was going to be a 5 because they said nothing.
Yeah.
And I feel like now we're going to need to wait and see, but there probably will be an Xperia 5. But I showed her
Yeah.
I showed her my Xperia 5 Mark 1, and she was like, "Oh yeah, okay, this is a little taller, but this is a better form factor for me." I went, "Yes, it's a smaller phone. You're gonna like that." So we might be switching from a Pixel household to a Sony household.
I think it's a good move. I would be very excited to see what she thinks. And honestly, I think I said that at the end of my video for the 1 Mark 5. The 1 Mark 5 makes me really excited for the 5 Mark 5 because that small, more nimble, functional presence, because it's smaller, still carrying the 5,000 milliampere battery, because I'm assuming they're going to keep that from last year. That the gorgeous display, and of course the ability of getting that main sensor in there.
If they changed nothing on the Xperia 5, but just gave us the 8 Gen 2 with the better thermal hardware.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even if they just kept the same sensors, you mean?
It could be the exact same phone. And
true.
The Xperia 5 would be a monster. But we're going to save the Sony chat. I just want to pop in here really quick because I just got this yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's kind of blowing me away. And I feel like this is witchcraft. This is sort of voodoo. I feel like Ulanzi should probably be investigated by some sort of Vatican committee of
Are you saying the laws of physics are being tested, my friend? That's because I'm guessing
they seem to be being pushed, and not just the laws of physics, but the physics of an accessory that we often take for granted at the price that this company is selling this product for. So I don't have any long-term thoughts. I don't know. I can't speak to durability or how joints and components are going to wear over time, but I've been a recent convert. A lot of my gear in the studio now has switched over to Ulanzi brackets and mounts and tripods and stuff.
I love it. Yeah.
So I still have a lot of love and fondness for Peak Design. My Peak Design travel tripod is still, this is one of the best tripods I've ever used. But it was pricey. This was an expensive aluminum tripod. And it's not heavy. It's really not. But it's hilarious how making a jump over to a carbon fiber, similarly constructed, super small portable travel tripod, like this feels heavier than it needs to be. Like, all of this extra heft. It's like ounces heavier. Who could do that? Who would do that in their travel bag?
No, I know.
So then I moved over to the Ulanzi carbon fiber travel tripod, which is a very similar kind of really compact, small form factor. You know, just kind of keep it all. Like this thing is great. This thing has really been rocking my socks, and it is like 25 or almost 30% lighter than the
but the price
Peak
point
Design.
too. Yeah, it was even.
Well, that's why I'm comparing it against the aluminum. The carbon fiber Peak Design is a lot lighter, but it's also significantly more expensive. The Peak Design carbon fiber photo tripod is roughly the same price as what you can get the Peak Design aluminum tripod for. But Ulanzi just sent this over. And going from their photo tripod, they now have a video tripod. And I don't know if my camera will focus on this.
There we go. Fluid head right there. Oh, nice.
So fluid head with angle and tilt. So you not only do you have like this really smooth action moving the head, and like you can, angle and adjust, and it's got, it's pretty light. So come on, there we go. So like with about 3 pounds of weight, it'll also do that really smooth return action. But if your camera gear is heavier than that, it'll get stuck. But it also still has the secondary, so it's not just lateral and up and down. You can also angle ball head style on this as well. So right now, I think this is selling for $250.
Nice.
It's lighter than their photo tripod.
And so is it still carbon fiber? It is carbon fiber, isn't it?
It's carbon fiber, yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
They've managed to add a much more significant control apparatus at the head of the tripod, and they still shaved weight over their ridiculously lightweight.
How does it compare? Like if you put them next to each other, Slightly
It's
taller? Or?
1 inch shorter. The photo tripod at the full extension of the center column is just a hair taller, but we're talking like negligible differences when you're looking. And then they also did this, where in the center column,
You can remove it and then set it. Yeah.
they added a phone mount. So just like the Peak Design phone mount, it's here in the center column, which the photo tripod. So this has the more robust metal built ball and fluid head and an integrated center column phone mount, all at roughly the same price, and it's lighter than the Ulanzi photo
You are,
tripods.
yeah, you're right. $259 right there. Like crazy.
$260.
Ah, come on, John.
I've
You know
never
you like
seen
it.
anything. Well, as don't call me Mr. Biggs. That's my father.
That's fine.
I have been very impressed. So I've basically converted all of my plates and mounts to
And it
Ulanzi
does come
plates.
with one plate with it as well. I think just to mention if you haven't.
I took it out because I use a different combo plate that can switch back and forth between Peak Design and Ulanzi mounts, but I've never seen anything like this. My when I was at Pocket Now, I had I think it was a Bowers and Wilkins carbon fiber tripod that was so much bigger than this, and I had a separate Manfrotto fluid head for pan and tilt, and I think that combo altogether was like 600.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was not portable.
No,
I mean, you'd strap it to the outside of your camera bag, but this fits in like a little sling case that. I mean,
I
it's
still
just
use
crazy.
the
Oh
one
yeah,
that
you still have-
recommend.
Yeah.
No. I love this. It is. I mean,
It's a great
don't get me wrong.
tripod.
It's an amazing tripod. It is literally I call this my if you have any Mjolnir, basically, my battle axe. No, it's a great tripod, but it is not. It starts becoming heavy on, especially when you're trying to cover a show floor, like MWC, IFA, those trips, everything. It gets heavy. Because anything that you hold, even if it's a small, like those ounces that we were talking about and we are joking about, when you're carrying all of that for an extended amount of hours, you will feel
It weighs on you, yeah.
But from
And
a
then it's
from
also
a
just bulkier. So
but it's
how you
also,
carry it.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and for me, when I travel, I take the fluid head off and I just let it sit because it's also a little bit too tall to fit into carry on. It needs to be broken down. So
I'd have to always step up to kind of like a medium-sized rolling suitcase and disassemble it. And so it's funny because like
oh,
you
dude,
would
the
see
Ulanzi's
me.
220 right now. I'm so sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Oh no, I mean like I think full retail is 260, but they've been
It
doing
is.
sales on
Yeah.
it.
That
Yeah.
they're running a promo on it right now, and I don't know what I just did, but I think I hit buy for some reason.
Oh,
Anyways,
that's
go ahead.
weird. That's
Yeah.
funny that would have happened.
Mouse problems. What can I say?
Oh man, see, it gets the best of us, dude.
Every single
Well,
time I try to I'm just looking at specs and then suddenly buy. I'm like, how did that happen?
well, I'll let them know that before I even reviewed it, I at least
You already
helped
made a sale.
influence one
You can
sale.
clip this shot and straight up just say, yeah, it'll be here Saturday, May 13th.
I think this is silly. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to highlight this tripod in the conversation that we've been having about all these different phones, it seems silly to use a professional photography accessory like a really nice tripod with a
Yeah.
phone. But our phone cameras have gotten so good, if you needed to do ultra lightweight and you were wanting to shoot, I mean, especially if you were wanting to shoot like interviews or location journalism, like news, documentary footage, it is so stupid fast to drop sticks on these new portable tripods. The Peak Design rocked me because it was like, from going to the Bowers and Wilkins where you're unscrewing every leg and you're pulling it out and you've got your head on, you got this mount, you attach it to the camera and you set up your shot. And the Peak Design was like, flip 3 tabs, drop those sticks, open it out, clip on this mount, shoot. And it was so much faster. And then I started using them with phones and it got even faster still. And then I would edit the footage that I shot on the phone that I shot it from. And you're like, I have radically minimized how much I'm actually carrying, and I'm not suffering a significantly lower quality of work than what I would have shot out in the field with like my mirrorless cameras on a heavier tripod. But now I don't have to make that recommendation with a $600 Peak Design, because a $600 Peak Design to shoot from your phone seems a little sillier, but
It's also
I'm
based on the
nearing.
time when it was released. I feel like I think right now people, if they're doing their work and they're really looking at some of the comparables in there,
Oh,
I
sure.
think Ulanzi is definitely like it should be one of those that you automatically start looking at and comparing to some of the features. But it's again for me what Ulanzi's benefit from the last tripod that you were reviewing and the photo one. This one is smaller, more nimble. I'm looking at it from just the sheer footprint of it.
Well, the ball head is taller, so the
No, well
photo
done. I'm
tripod,
talking about the
yeah.
no, exactly. But when you
But
take the photo head off and you put the mount that you have at the bottom of
they've
it.
got a new foot design, so I can even kind of show this off here. This is awkward because I've got such a silly live stream.
Well,
So
hold on.
if
Let me make
I set up the
your video
feet,
bigger.
well, actually, I kind of need more height. But so if you look at like if I kind of match the feet, you can see where that fluid head adds some height, but the feet design is actually just a little more compact because it does this kind of rotating telescoping action as opposed to having individual tabs for each section of the tripod foot. It is some very clever engineering to arrive at something that is so much more compact. But that is one of the considerations. Like, if you're not doing a lot of movement in your video shots, then you might want to just go with the photo tripod because it'll save you the headache of trying to find just that extra height to pack
Well, like
the
I said,
fluid
for
head.
me, it's not even a solution. It's not an issue because what I do is I just unmount the top.
Oh yeah,
So
and you can do that here too. But for me, it's one of the things that I love about these kinds of tripods is how much less setup there is. And if
oh no,
I'm,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? It's like
I'm more referring
if
to it as like travel, not
for
necessarily like
sure,
if I'm at the
for
event.
sure,
If
for
I'm
sure,
at the
for sure.
event, the fluid head stays on. But yeah, no, like this. So
But yeah,
you save way more
I,
space. There's that extra space area.
I'm just blown away. Like both of these are still ridiculous. So this is the Ulanzi, what is it? The F38 Zero. I forget exactly what the full
They had a
name
few
for it
models
is.
of that. I remember last time when I was looking for it. Yeah.
But I can't say enough nice things. And the great thing has been we've seen the adoption of a couple different compatible plates. So my Peak Design tripod isn't obsolete in this setup anymore. I can now cross connect between Ulanzi's plate system and Peak Design's plate system. And for buying, I've bought a lot of these little, like, I think they're $25. So these little $25 square plates that go
Oh, the
in these
mount. Yeah,
quick
the
release
plate one.
mounts.
Exactly.
And now I just have them permanently attached to a couple cell phone holders and a couple my cameras. And it's like clip, shoot, unclip, clip, shoot, and it's that fast.
Yeah.
I'm so taken with these new portable systems because the entire process has been streamlined to a degree that I wouldn't have imagined possible 4 years ago.
It's exciting. It's exciting to see what Ulanzi is doing. And I'll be honest. Last time when we talked about the Ulanzi, the photo tripod, yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time finding the right configuration from it. Wow, that is overexposed on my side. But the biggest thing I would probably would say is video is primarily what I do most. I don't really
Yeah.
do a lot of photography with tripods. I have my Gorilla Pod for that when I need to go out and into like natures and so on, and I need to set something up. I find the Gorilla Pod works a little bit better because it mounts to everything I have. Typically in nature, flat surfaces are not necessarily always available, but you'll find probably a tree or something that you're able to mount that to it. So I use my Joby GorillaPod there, and I think that works great for me, especially when I go on like I'm reviewing those bikes and I need to
Yeah.
be kind of going with a light kit. A GorillaPod works better for me because it fits and it mounts also on the bike. That's the other thing. I can mount it on my bike.
So I just want to
But
show
the
how
video
silly
really,
this is.
yeah,
So
please.
when I say like I've really taken to all of these Ulanzi mounts, so this is my Gorilla Pod, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got the little Joby
Joby, yeah, the
Joby
fluid.
ball fluid head
Yeah,
ball
yeah, yeah.
mount,
Same here.
and then on top of that, so with the quick release plate on the Joby, I have attached a plate for the Ulanzi,
Ulanzi.
and so then here's the little bottom plate so that you can just go
Quick snap.
schnick. Oh, whoops, got it. There we go. So you just go schnick, and then it's got like a little locking mechanism. You've got your phone mounted. Then I can go pop, put it on my Peak Design, go from GorillaPod to Peak Design to Ulanzi, all with this one little plate system. So I kind of went, I kind of went a little crazy.
It's okay.
Replacing all
these
of
are
my
these are the
plates.
things we're okay to go a little crazy on. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I can't wait, and hopefully I'll let you know tomorrow once I get mine, because literally, I that's one of the things I appreciate, being able to. I mean, we don't have a B&H. It's not like I could just walk over to it. But even when I did go to B&H in New York last time, when you were talking to me about the other one, they didn't have Ulanzi in the store. They had the Peak Design, but they didn't have Ulanzi in the store. And I feel like, okay, so I can find it on their site, but you know, because I wanted to kind of get that experience, right? I had some time. I think around. I want to say it was around the OnePlus 11 launch. I was walking around New York and I was just taking pictures, and like, yeah, let me just pop in. It was, you know, there was, it was easier to get into B&H than it was at the end of the pandemic, where there was a lot of more protocols and stuff like that, because there's, you know, it's a big store. But long story is, yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I have a trip next week that'll be going on, again, back to New York. Like, surprise, surprise. But yeah, so I'll definitely get a chance to check it out and test it out with the Sony.
Being able to kind of throw down a really nice tripod matters, because we've got these fancy phones with really nice cameras on them.
Fancy is the right word, my friend. It's fancy.
Is it time to? I don't know. Anyone in the chat? Do you want to talk about the Xperia 1 Mark V? I've already seen some of the people sort of like hurrying, like, I guess I can take my Xperia 1 Mark II review and just change all the names to Xperia 1 Mark V, because it's basically the same phone. I'm a tech reviewer.
No, actually, I got a comment yesterday from somebody saying, this thing doesn't shoot 8K. This is garbage. I'm like, what?
I got that comment, but I just linked him. I didn't even reply. I linked him the video that I shot, 4K 120 versus 8K, because sure, 8K video is a little sharper, but man,
I'm like,
when
I'd
you
like
slow
to see
down,
the use cases of 8K 24 over 4K 120, my friend. Let's just have that conversation. I didn't want to even answer, but I feel like
the footage of Lex like jumping around a playground, 4K resolution, slowed to 1/4 real time, is real good. It's just real nice.
I will say, okay, so now that we're fully on into
let's do it.
Xperia land.
Xperia.
I'll say this. Come on, Sony.
The 1 Mark V.
Now, I will say I am using my Xperia 1 Mark IV case. This is not the Xperia 1 Mark V case.
Did yours fit? Mine didn't.
It did.
What?
You bought the original case? Which case did you buy? I bought the Sony case.
No. I have
You're using an aftermarket, right?
I have a Spigen.
Yeah.
So the Spigen
I decided to go with the $39, $40. This is the Sony case that they released. Now, I'll be honest, it doesn't fit all the way. The camera sensor on the side, because you know how they always do it, shifted 1 millimeter to the left, so it doesn't fit.
Putting in that larger sensor, I'm forgiving Sony on this, where I have been critical of other companies.
So the case has a little bit of a separation there, but because it clips on the tops and it doesn't cover the sides of the phone, again, this is kind of like what happened with the 11. When we were playing with the 11, remember, I was able to put the 10 Pro's case on it. As long as you don't have the side button issue, it works perfectly fine. And for me, the shot that I posted yesterday when I was editing the video, I was actually using it in portrait mode, sitting it on the table like this. So, yeah, the Sony, the Xperia 1 Mark V is... I don't know how Sony's been able to... Yes. Oh, my God. Look at that beautiful before. I have an appreciation to Sony's hardware that never settles, and I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? Like you go back to the same thing, and you would feel like maybe by the third or fourth generation, you're like, you know what? Sony's not really doing much.
Yeah, I pull out my Xperia 1 Mark II, and it's still like, oh, this is such a nice phone. And then I pull out my Xperia 1 Mark IV, and like, oh, this is such a nice phone. And now I've been playing with the Xperia 1 Mark V. It's such a nice phone.
It is. No, seriously. Like the excitement that I just want you guys to obviously see. The excitement you see in the video from both of us is from a kid in a candy store approach to me, at least the way I look at it. This is how I feel like when I'm playing with the Xperia 1 Mark V. And the reason behind that is, every time something is done, the changes that are done, they're so specific, but I feel like they're talking to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like somebody sat there, they're kind of like, can we make TK
I,
excited next year?
I need to give a
Or
little
that
bit of
crew.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Both TK and I, since the Xperia 1 Mark II, we've been in pre-briefs with Sony PR together. And we have been begging for them to improve a couple of the features on the phone. One specifically is focus peaking
Yeah.
in the camera app. They referenced us whining about focus peaking in the pre-brief for the 1 Mark 5
I know, it
and
was funny.
literally said, "Oh, and this one will make Juan and TK happy. We're finally adding focus peaking." I was like, I was like a muppet.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
listened to me. They listened
Exactly.
to TK.
I will say, um, like I said, it really felt like they were talking specific. S-Cinetone is
Yeah,
amazing. The addition
Cinetone
of
is
the
great.
new, and just to be fair, my first video wasn't a review. That was by no means a review.
No.
I was trying to show as much as I could in as much. I mean, and it still was like a 20-minute video.
Yeah.
And I'm working on the video on the photography part of it, the video and photography side. I also am working on a gaming side. So it's going to be a trio of setup for me, at least with the pre-production hardware. You got to keep in mind. I just don't feel right reviewing a piece of hardware that is in
It shouldn't be
theory
called a
still,
review. This is
yeah,
definitely a
this is
prototype. Yeah.
exactly. So for me, those are the things like the attention to the UI elements, the attention to the new creative looks that we have in there, the S-Cinetone for video, all those little things. But the biggest thing that knocked my socks off, dude, seriously, is the fact that I was able to record, like I can seriously record an entire video review on the Xperia 5, 1 Mark 5 video by just capturing it from my main. I connected it to my here, just to my switchboard that I have from all my cameras,
Yeah.
right? And just like my A10 Mini is just feeding the source with the audio, the best video, and all on the phone, and I can just edit it straight off and take it with me and go. It was just amazing. It's like that excitement at the beginning of the video was really, really true. And the new sensor is actually really nice. I'm starting to see
Pretty
some of the
good.
benefits. There
Yeah.
was a few areas where I wanted to kind of keep pushing. So like I said, we've had it less than a week. Actually, for me, it's been, yeah, it still is less
About a
than,
week.
no, it's just about a
Yeah.
week. I got it on Thursday, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so all in all, and then of course they lowered the price. They realized that
Yep.
we can try to do some things.
We've I wanna highlight this. We've never seen a manufacturer cut the price this significantly and not gut all of the sort of features on the phone.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
Samsung cut the price from the S20 to the S21, we got a plastic back phone. We lost memory card support.
Oh,
We'd
yeah.
already lost the headphone jack. We went down to a lower resolution display. I mean, like, the phone got cheaper, but it also got cheaper. And here, the main difference, there are a bunch of tiny little accent things. Like, it doesn't, I don't think it has a notification light, at least no settings that I can find
we
for
lost
one.
the
We
notification
dropped
light.
we
We
dropped
lost
one of the
MM Wave.
sensors on the back of the camera. So one of
Well, the time of
what
flight,
is
yeah,
it?
the
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 time of
ITOF.
flight sensor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut the storage, the starting storage from 512 to 256. And I genuinely can't care.
No,
On
no,
a phone that lets me pop in a memory card, I don't care that I lost 256 gig of built-in storage to save $200 on the launch price of the phone. So I'm feeling pretty good on
yeah.
Sony this year.
I feel like if there was any area where they were able to do those tailoring, I like to call it, whenever a company reduces something or price and they're trying to tailor the experience to fit, the features that matter are the ones that they kept. They didn't touch, they didn't
Yeah.
focus. They improved the amp on the speakers that we have in here. They gave us obviously the higher readout on a brand new sensor that they're coming out with, so we didn't lose the high readout. We still have now. Well, now we actually have like legit 4K 60 across all the sensors, so you're no longer limited by 4K 30 frames per second, and you're getting all the features, all the bells and whistles, Music Pro, Cinema Pro, Video Pro, as well as the main camera. All of that stuff is really there. And I feel like this is, like I said, and I said in my video, I said, I'm not a Verizon user, nothing against Verizon, but a version of the phone that doesn't have millimeter wave is not an issue for me. I'm getting
No.
close to 1,000 megabits down with with Sprint / T-Mobile bands in my area, and I'm perfectly happy. but it's the streaming content creation from this. It's the capture of the content on your device, the display, the rear display kit that you're able to get, the vlogging kit that you're able to integrate.
All of that is still
All of that is still
compatible,
there.
and
All of that.
everything that we know of a Sony has gotten some kind of improvement or tweak or refresh. Oh, this looks really dark on sharing my screen. It's actually not this dark on my computer monitor. That's kind of weird. As I'm looking at like two different screens, and you're like, no, this looks
No,
better on
well, no,
on
like
the
the way
video and in the
I see
phone.
myself. Yeah, it depends
Yeah.
on how the
I'm
display and
doing
the
like
calibration that
a
you're watching.
video of a recording of a phone playing a video, streaming it on a video streaming service, and it's like 4 layers of compression. It doesn't look this dark. Anyway,
No, no, I'm with you. Yeah, yeah.
so I feel like Sony has maintained all of the things that I love about a Sony.
Yeah.
They've improved on everything that I've been concerned about for the consumer experience on a Sony, and we've not sacrificed or compromised anything for using a Sony. I don't know that I've been so tickled. I don't know that I've experienced this kind of year over year manufacturing. Every single
It's
time in
yeah.
recent memory that we've gotten a new feature on a phone, it almost seems to have come at the expense of another legacy feature,
That's usually
and
yeah.
that's not here.
And the form factor didn't grow. The size is there. The battery's still there. We still have HS power control. I actually like the new game center, game center that they have in
Oh
there.
man,
Some
the update
optimized
to
in
that
there.
was solid on the One Mark IV, but now we can
Oh,
really use it
yeah,
thanks
yeah,
to
yeah.
not having that crummy Samsung chip.
Oh, no, no,
So
absolutely.
the performance on this has been fantastic. I'm putting out a One Mark IV versus One Mark V video this afternoon.
Perfect.
I'm editing like crazy to try and get that finished. I just want to show this. This is going to look kind of crummy here, but here's the thermal warning where the One Mark IV shut off its camera app, and that was at 16 minutes and 46 seconds, where I don't have a thermal warning at all on the One Mark V shooting 4K at 120 frames per second,
Well,
and then I
yeah.
got to 20 minutes. Oh, did I do the full? So I just stopped recording after 32 minutes of 4K video at 120 frames per second, and I still haven't gotten a thermal warning on the One Mark V. So that will obviously change when you're really hitting the phone heavy for your 5G radio, if you're having to
Oh, no, no,
use
absolutely.
maximum
Yeah, yeah.
screen brightness. Eventually, you're going to tank the thermals on this phone.
Well, so that's
But
the other thing. They improve the what's it called, endurance mode in here.
yeah,
Depending on the apps that you're using, you remember that was the biggest
yeah.
thing we got after the
No,
One Mark IV last year.
but what I'm saying is we've got to keep performance in perspective.
Hmm.
And the perspective that I like to share is if you're really focusing on using the camera, you should be looking at maybe switching over to airplane mode if you're wanting the best performance for longer stretches of video. And that's true for all phones.
Yeah,
The
no, no.
more you use the
Reduce
bright
the usability.
screen, the
Yeah.
5G radio, the SoC at its maximum, the cameras are fired up, you're creating so much heat, you want to take some of the load off of your phone.
Hmm.
Doing nothing but using the camera. So the phone is in airplane mode, the screen is set to a medium brightness.
Hmm.
The thermal warning popped up at 9 minutes of 4K 120
Hmm.
on the One Mark IV. The clip shut off at 16 minutes of 4K 120, and the Xperia One Mark V went for 32 minutes with no thermal warning. So again, that is just using the camera, airplane mode, medium brightness. And I don't believe that if you're out in 90-degree heat with your 5G
Oh,
radio
yeah,
on
no,
and your
exactly.
screen at max brightness, that you're going to get the same performance. But when we limit just to see what the impact of the camera is, that is the ridiculous performance improvement that we see from the One Mark IV using
To
the crummy Samsung fabbed 8 Gen
exactly
1
the Gen 1.
to
Yeah.
the TSMC fabbed 8 Gen 2. That is ridiculous improvement year over
Yeah.
year. I've never seen anything like that kind of performance improvement.
it is absolutely one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people need to. I think this is one of the things I kind of reference even with the new Samsung device, even the S23 Ultra, is the fact that for previous generation Exynos users, the jump over to the 8 Gen 2 by itself is just a massive improvement. And here, having it on Sony's devices and keeping, like I said, we were not losing. I mean, we have some differences in storage maybe, and a time of flight sensor or even LED light. And I do realize some people will miss the LED light. I think that's one of the bigger, I think if anything, features that people usually look for. They really tailored the experience and they've improved the performance so much by going with, again, TSMC has been proven since the 8 Plus Gen 1, and we know that every device that uses it have benefited from it. And Sony is actually doing it really nice, like you've seen right there in this example. You use it as a viewfinder, but now that little button on the bottom right to be able to record that feed straight onto your phone is like crazy good. Like that backup.
It's not going to replace an Atomos, but
no, well,
but it could replace an Atomos.
I was gonna say, look at it this way: if you leave and you're in the field and you want to be able to stream your content straight from your camera, this is the unit to do it. If you want to be able to stream it, have a backup of your content and send it. Yeah, obviously the Atomos has way more. There is way more functionality that you're able to do. But look at the sheer size difference between the two, and the fact that you can seriously do some work with the Xperia 1 Mark V and get your work done. Absolutely win. And the file size is way smaller. It'll record, I think, if I'm not mistaken, up to 4K, the 4K 30.
Yeah.
But you need to make sure that your feed is 1080p at the bare minimum. I tried connecting it in my ZV-E1, no E1, the E10. It didn't want to work. It's like 720p. I could use it as a viewfinder. That worked fine.
Yeah.
But it was streaming at 720, which I forgot about that one. That's right. The A7 the A7 IV does 1080p, but the ZV-E10 did not. And I think the E1 maybe goes up to it now because with the larger sensor. But long story is the early numbers that we're getting out of it, the performance, the image quality, if anything else, has been seriously like they've
nice.
checked off all. Yeah. And low light for me, I can start seeing the benefit from low light, that more of a dedicated, you're able to actually turn it on. Look at that. The focus, the sheer ability of being able to focus exactly right in front of you. And the UI, I love the fact that now if I'm shooting, a TikTok or a reel, the UI adjusts even in all of the camera modes, in Video Pro, Cinema Pro, or even the basic camera. Because to me, it like, I'll say this here. So like, I'm using it here on, so obviously the basic mode doesn't do it, but here, like this is the Xperia, this is the Pro I, right? Sorry, just to kind of point it. So the Pro I never changed the aesthetics of the focus. Mm-hmm. You go over and you just switch it over and you jump into the experience here. So here, it starts off here, but look.
What? Is that an on-screen shutter button?
Oh my God. Yeah, what? I mean, and you're still able to kind of like, hey, let's say, snap a
pic. Look at that. A perfect rear camera selfie, because using your front-facing camera is the dumbest thing ever if you want to take a photo of yourself.
And I love the integration of the new looks. The new looks are actually kind of transitioned between
I think poorly of people that take photos with their front-facing cameras. Those are only for video calls.
Some people were asking me actually on Twitter, they're like, hey, what do you think? Do you think the Pro I is a better buy, is still a better buy than most others? Because believe it or not, the ridges, the feel that you have on the Xperia 1 Mark V came from the Pro I. That's that grip on the side, not the textured back, but so that's the video I'm working. I figured I figured it's a good comparison to go from Pro I to this.
The Xperia 1 Mark, again, it's like so few people in our circle of techie enthusiast friends have that same experience with Sony where we can shortcut this. It's like we've always got to kind of spoon feed them the entire history of Sony in every video because they really only watch videos about Samsung and Apple. But for those of us in our chat, for those of you in our chat who actually do pay attention to
like right now,
competition, this really does feel like the love child of a 1 Mark IV and a Pro I, but with all of the performance improvements of the TSMC chip. And it's really a lovely combination. It's better companion sensors. You're neck and neck for the actual main sensor performance in terms of field of view and depth of field. Mm-hmm. But where we lose the variable aperture, we gain significantly better low light performance. So it is a trade, but it's a trade that I think a lot of people in this space are going to be happy to make for the overall performance
Experience.
improvements. The sensor in the Pro I is still a champ, but it
Oh,
wasn't
absolutely.
built for a phone. And now we've got a purpose-built bleeding edge light acquisition technology sensor from Sony to achieve something that we've never seen on an Xperia before.
No, no, it is a new technology. It's like seriously, like this is one of the first things they did here is they're bringing in that new technology and literally like running it on their best device on the market. This is the biggest thing. We are going to see other companies really try to mimic some of this, but
Sure.
the technology that we get in here, we still have the high readout on it, which is again a big focus. We didn't jump back to, like 60p or 60 frames per second just to get that good footage. They
Right.
focused on it. 8K, I feel like, and this is where I didn't want to really harp too much on that comment that we got there, but I still don't think 8K is very usable in the medium that we have right
No.
now. I mean, we have devices that can shoot it,
Yeah.
but shooting
But you
8K and complaining about the fact that it's choppy is not the right answer when you
well, and
realize
then
it's
also
not meant for action
this
or
is
even
also the
movie.
other thing that
Yeah.
obviously it's been my mission, and I've been trying to encourage more people to do this. But how many times do you hang out with friends and they take all these photos and all these videos and then nothing ever comes from that because it's a pain to move photos and videos to another computer
Yeah.
to share and finish that stuff off. And 8K still doesn't work in any of our mobile video editing apps, at least not consistently or not very well. And so 4K 120, the fact that it loads up in a LumaFusion timeline or in a Power Director timeline, and you can time stretch it, you can edit it, you can clip it, you can cut it, you can retime it,
Hmm.
drop it down to 4K 30 if you want to do that. It is so much more flexible that you really do get to use that stuff out in the field. I've got an image here up on the screen because Assel wanted to show.
Yeah.
Whenever we've heard other companies talk about improvements to things like autofocus performance, it's usually a nebulous spec to try and test. Like I tap on the screen and a big square shows up on someone's face, and I guess that got better. I don't know. I mean, setting two phones side by side, it's really difficult to tell.
Hmm.
Sony doesn't dump a lot of AI processing into their photo finishing. So you take a photo and the colors are going to look a little muted and the dynamic range isn't going to be as HDR poppy. It's not going to be as ratcheted a social media photo. But every year Sony makes claims about their autofocus performance.
Yeah.
And so here is a photo from the telephoto sensor at 125 millimeter equivalents.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My daughter is climbing one of those staged platform things, but there's a
Hmm.
mesh. There's a mesh webbing around the whole thing so kids don't fall off the platforms and break their neck. And the Sony is able to see through the mesh, and you can see the focus peaking where the phone is focusing
No,
naturally.
no, I don't. Yeah,
It is
I see the
giving us
color.
our focus highlights.
The,
It
the, the
still
mesh is not
finds
blue
her.
or the purple.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
So I
it is.
use the blue color for my focus peaking.
Yeah.
The phone is still finding her eyeball from a distance of like almost 2.5 stories, like how you look at buildings. She's
Hmm.
almost 3 stories up from having climbed all these platforms, and it's found her eyeball. And it is focused on her eyeball through a mesh net at almost 3 stories in height.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to demonstrate that there is a profound practical difference in what Sony is trying to accomplish for things like sports, action photography, high-speed video.
Even
I,
pets. Even pets. If
and
you have
and,
pets,
and, it, and it does. You can actually see, the eye tracking autofocus. There's like a little toggle
human
down
and
here. I'm just
yeah.
shooting in full auto, so I
No,
can't
no.
really mess with this. But the eye tracking and the face tracking is also applicable to pet tracking as
Yeah,
well.
for
That's
me,
how smart the AI is.
moving. I mean, so I'll say this: with humans, you're able to talk to them and say, "Hey, hey, I'm taking a picture." And kids typically will try to, "Hey," they'll smile, they may stand there, but trying to do that with a cat or a dog, but obviously for me it's cats because that's
Right.
what I have, is just crazy hard. And the fact that not only does it capture the eyes of the pet as they are moving, if their face turns around, it becomes a square. If their face comes back, boom, back on the eye, has been crazy. Like that to me is the level of autofocusing or eye autofocus that we expect an alpha camera to do. And this is literally some of the main technologies that we're appreciated. In high speed shooting content, like if you're trying to capture images where you're trying to have like somebody jump in midair or trying to do more of an action scene,
Yeah.
shooting in 120 is great. But if you just want to do photography, you can actually pretty much create a movie from a continuous high speed readout. Like you're shooting
Yeah.
20 frames per second, boom, 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 one after another, and you're going to get that content. And I feel like it is a creator tool. I will say this: the reason why you're seeing me or you're seeing us excited and geeking out here is because it speaks to what we love. This is the tech that when we're trying to use other devices, like, I see Honor did it a little bit better in the Magic 5 Pro, where they're trying to do more of an AI approach to capturing content. As they see motion, they start doing almost like a video and try to keep the subject in motion, but then it
Sure.
picks the images that it can do. Here, you get all 20 to 40 images that you captured, and
Yeah.
you get to pick which one you want.
Yeah.
So
It
no,
works. It,
and
it works really well.
it is, and it makes me so excited for the 5 and then the 1. The 10 did also get some updates in there, but obviously the 10 is considered to be a slightly different device. I actually still
Yeah.
have my 10 from last year, and I really feel bad because I didn't really give it that much love. I picked up the 10 Mark IV last year from
Hmm.
Europe, and of course because I wanted the white one. But
And again, it would be nice if Sony could maybe find a strategy to deliver a mid-price solution here in the United States, but they already have a hard enough time even just marketing what little marketing they do for the 1 and the 5.
and I feel like the 1 and the 5 have been working for them quite a bit. I think the
Yeah.
approach works well. I once I got the 10, I realized that the 10 may share the name, but the experience is very different.
Oh
It
yeah.
truly is a very different phone. It's still an Xperia, obviously, but it's more of the Xperia compact edition. I would probably say it's really more of that smaller footprint, but also more mid range and
Sure.
trying to fit in within a budget. But gaming on this has been great for me, at least.
Yeah.
I've been checking around. Temperatures have been in check. Speakers have been really good. Audio has been really nice. Watching content, as you can imagine, really, really good. It, they kept the good things from years. They didn't feel like there was a need to try to push the display more. Obviously, this is, for the most part, if I'm not mistaken, the same display on the One Mark IV. They didn't really change much.
Yeah, I
The
don't think
same
they changed
brightness
anything
level.
there.
It's still
Yeah.
brighter than the Mark III, which is what we seen last year. But yeah, from a brightness, usability outdoors, this is definitely still benefiting from the Force display. The speakers, as I said, have a new built-in, the improved amp that we have in there. Great sounding headphone jack.
Hmm.
Audio in, audio out on the headphone jack. Audio in, audio out on the USB-C. Crazy functional options to be able to do things in this. And if you have the external kit, which I have it sitting right here,
Hmm.
leveraging the additional headphone jack that you get on the side of this, sorry, it's
Right?
on the other side, to be able to put in audio straight from it is really, really nice. And I really love the magnetic configuration on this. Still one of my favorite features.
Snap.
And again,
Magnets, how do they work?
surprise. But it is going to come down also on that endurance mode that we got last year, that it does translate here. And the endurance mode is what will allow you to push your device even further, like an alpha camera, because it
Hmm.
releases the thermal. Even if there was a thermal throttle that you do, let's say, hit, you want to be able to shoot 4K 60 for an hour, over an hour. Endurance mode on a tripod mode allows the device to run hot, and it knows that it's not going to be handled by a person's hands. It just lets the thermals go, and it will basically let
Hmm.
you go as long as you can. Let's say that. As long as the battery has
See,
power.
this is a major part of the video that I tried to accomplish. Like we've been having these conversations. Like I get it. The majority of using the phone as a phone to do your basic phone things, you don't want to sit there and fiddle with a bunch of performance settings. And so
Mhm.
what Samsung or what you like a OnePlus will do to manage the performance for you is totally appropriate.
Yeah.
I use the phones the vast majority of my day in situations like that, and I get it. But when I want to do something, I want to use the full capacity of what the phone can do, where I know it can handle a higher tier of performance.
Yep.
I'm a grown up. And I know that using I'm showing a video here of playing Titan Quest. Titan Quest is an older dungeon crawler. It's kind of like a Diablo 2 style game.
Very much, yeah.
But this is staying above 95 frames per second in some pretty wide open map areas, which has always been a struggle for Android phones in this game. And I can tell the Sony, run hot, keep the performance high,
Hmm.
and keep the screen refresh as high as you can. Now, after about 15 minutes of gaming, I probably won't want to hold the phone because it is pretty toasty,
It's gonna get
but
warm,
it's
yeah.
doing it. And I know it's running the phone warm, but I can also use HS power control, so I know it's not wrecking my battery for running the phone warm.
Yeah.
Again, it's like we've got the content creator tools that we would expect from a really expensive content creation platform.
Hmm.
We also have gaming features that rival the best gaming phones.
Yeah.
And we've got all of the legacy features that we've loved on older phones, like memory card support and headphone support.
Yeah,
I,
who need those things, man? Hey, come on, yeah, no, no,
it,
yeah,
it's such a refreshing total package device that I don't know. It's frustrating because like I think a lot of people that tend to review very shallow.
hmm
Oh, but it's just stock Android, and it's the same form factor as like the last 2 years. And like you can already feel some of those comments coming out, and you can already see some of that conversation kind of taking root because Sony doesn't put a lot of visibility into their own conversation, so that vacuum gets filled by people with channels where they're just confirming the bias of someone who already owns an iPhone.
yeah.
When it really comes down to using a phone at its upper limits and trying to displace other gadgets like cameras and computers, this is why we get really excited about a new Sony. I really liked my 1 Mark IV, but we all had to acknowledge the issues with the 8 Gen 1.
Hmm.
The Mark V could have been the exact same phone, but with just an 8 Gen 2, and I would have been really happy. That we got other improvements and other new capabilities and some even more fun software additions
And I feel like
really
the software stuff. I want to see some more improvements in that field as well. But I feel like they waited for the 8 Gen 2 and the better thermals to be able to start
yeah,
leveraging the device on the software side because Sony's, like you said, it's always been get the best image possible from the sensor side as opposed to trying to get the
yeah,
best image possible post processing side.
sure.
We have a few new creative modes if you want to be able to do some of the and of course S-Cinetone as well. They took some of the auto modes in here to try to help us also be a little bit more functional in that sense. I feel like the ability of shooting content with S-Cinetone without having the need to color grade it after production, like take it straight from camera and start
Well,
editing
and
it
it's
and
the
where
same color grading that you would have on a Sony cinema
I know, no, no,
camera,
exactly,
right?
no, no, exactly. That's what the sheer horsepower that the Agent 2 has been able to open up for them, the capabilities, has been really what gets me excited. Like you said, if it wasn't even with a new sensor, just going with the Agent 2 and the software optimizations that they've been able to do, I'm very much sold on it. The extra few creative looks are good and they're functional. I still like to shoot essentially in standard or NT and then transfer it over into an editor and get my look to look exactly. Oh, you found the same flower. I really like that one. I couldn't find
Yeah.
any more. I saw it one time during one of Omar's meets on the over the weekend.
Oh, that's not the
Oh
one.
my God, look at that purple. Look at that purple.
I've got a better one. Hold on, let me find.
Yeah, those flowers
That's
are
the
very
one.
yes.
Those wild daisies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. 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 No. No. For me, it was a tree I was on in one of my rides in the area. There was a tree that had some moss growing on it, and it was like some yellow moss kind of growing in on a bark. So the tree is kind of dying, but you get the moss growing in there. So that nice, really kind of artistic look, nature kind of just threw it in front of you, kind of thing. Oh, look at that sound wave kicking it. Hey, sound wave's like, hey, what is that, Juan? I'm sorry. What is that, John? Is that a new
Yeah.
phone?
Hey, Mr. Biggs, what's going on, man?
Yeah, man. What's up? What's up? What about them flowers? I really and oh hey, you guys got the same bunnies. We got those all over the
Yeah.
place.
They're cute.
Hunting bunny? No, I'm not gonna say hunting bunny rabbit.
Rabbits.
But yeah, no. There's a lot more content. Obviously, we're both working on. I'll be very frank. This is a temporary loaner. I'm not keeping this device. I had some people reaching out. I was like, hey, can you gift me this phone or stuff like that? I'm like, guys, come on.
And you're like, no.
This is
No,
like, I mean, this is
I'm
not
keeping
new to Sony, right? We don't know. This is a very, very thankfully, both of us very thankful to be able to play and try to test out this amazing hardware in the current state that it's in. The turnaround this year, which was surprisingly fast, considering, I mean, obviously it's not like tomorrow; it's still in July, but yeah, your pre-order started on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday, and you're able to get it in less than 2 months. So I feel
Yeah.
like we may be catching up to the rest of the world now. I don't know.
Well, a little bit, and also I kind of feel like, I mean, I asked point blank about
Yeah.
what some of the feedback has been between some of their other manufacturing partners, and the Sony PR rep was very diplomatic about their relationship with Qualcomm, and the kind of business relationship that they have with other suppliers of components and Samsung and everything. And
Hmm.
we also needed to take a look at our own thermal performance, and so we made these changes in the One Mark V. But you almost kind of wonder if some of these smaller smartphone manufacturers knew that they were in for a rough ride because of Samsung. Like, you get the phone, you've done all this testing. These phones are being made 2 years in advance of when we really get them,
Absolutely.
and you have to wonder, like, that whole time are they sort of benchmarking and testing this stuff, and then going, hey, this thing is gonna this thing's gonna have some issues, but we need to put out a phone this year, or it's gonna look real bad that we don't put out a phone this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
There was some specific, yeah, there's some challenges, of course. Yeah. Every year.
and they felt, again, the conversation from the Sony PR side was a lot happier this year than I felt it was last year.
Because I'm sure
So,
they felt the limitation in their home market. I mean, at least for us, with our PR in the U.S. and North American,
oh yeah,
it's a tough sell every time you're talking to creators and so on, and you're in like March, April, May timeline, and the phone comes out in like September.
yeah,
Right. I mean, that's a tough sale. So I feel like, for one thing, if anything else, it improving the functionality, the fact that you get a pair of buds as is still usual directly from them for free, which is like a $250 pair of buds. Anyways, if you think about that fact, on top of the fact that the phone's $200 cheaper at launch than what we had last year, it is such a better deal. Like, in my mind, and I'll be very frank, where I was thinking, like, should I go for a Pixel Fold, drop 1,800 to almost like $1,950 on a foldable right now, or should I just go for a Sony? I'd put down a down payment for a Sony, and I'm not trying to compare, saying that a foldable is not as good as a Sony. The technology that comes between both of these devices right now,
sure,
I want to see the Pixel Fold prove itself. I was never and I'll be very frank, on the first generation of the original Galaxy Z Fold, or the originally back when it was just called the Fold. I really wasn't sold on Samsung's approach to it. Battery life wasn't as good. The functions weren't really running there. I feel like, again, it's that beta test, right? This is the first iteration. If anybody can perfect the process, I feel like Google can. But if my money had to make a
yeah,
decision right now on the fact that pre-order now and both of these devices deliver at the same time, as a creator, I would go with
yeah.
what Sony's offering. That's
Jermaine has
primarily.
a really important question to ask
Yeah.
you in the chat. It's up on the screen right now. So,
You know what, Jermaine? Absolutely. I can gift you any phone you want as long as it's under 200. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate the people that, obviously, that, I understand why you're asking for it, but the reality at the end of the day, you have to remember is a couple of things. A, if this phone was purchased by us, it's not something we're able to throw away, because if it was, we wouldn't be, obviously it's an asset for what we use. And if it's a loaner from a company, we're not going to damage our relationship with the company to be able to give away a phone that potentially could break a whole bunch of
I
windows.
don't
'Cause
think you
again,
need to explain that to anyone
yeah,
who
no, I
listens
know.
to our
And everybody that's listening
podcast
to us,
or watches our
it's
shows.
it is absolutely
I
not
think
needed.
Jermaine was joking
I'm gonna have
about
to talk to Jermaine at a
piggybacking on
different.
what you mentioned.
I know,
in,
I know.
So anyway,
But so
no,
yeah,
we're very excited. So I have to be frank, because I'm
you're not gonna be
actually
John anymore.
John.
Oh crap.
Oh, nailed it! I love it. So no, I have to be frank in that I was a big fan of the Surface Duo. I
Yeah.
really liked dual display on the LGs. My personal bias over these last 2 years, having gone from Duos to some of these other like camera focused phones,
Hmm.
I I think a Pixel Foldable is cool, but increasingly the camera evolution on our phones has pushed my content creation higher and higher,
Hmm.
and it's also just been more enjoyable for getting photos of my family. And I don't think I can walk back. Again, if I go hands on with the Pixel Fold, I'm not buying one.
Hmm.
I'm not going to use the Gadget Lab budget on a Pixel Foldable, because I'm increasingly kind of leaning more into what kind of photos, what kind of video, what can I use to create content out in the field. So again, this is the personal preference. But after having played with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, the Vivo X90, you've been rocking that Oppo, we're both playing with the Sony. The idea of going to a folding tablet but stepping back the camera quality is not the right decision for my personal needs right now. So I'm very anxious about Pixel 8 because I want to see if we'll get some sensor improvements on Pixel 8.
Yeah.
But so far, like the crazy showdown of the year right now for me is Xiaomi 13 Ultra versus Xperia 1 Mark V. They are radically different philosophies. They
Very.
are significantly different technologies, and yet I think they're both occupying a seat at the table for using your phone to really push the limits of mobile photo and mobile video.
Absolutely.
It's been remarkable, and that's just me saying like that's the high end. Staying near that top end, we're going to have a Pixel that's going to be a great spot in that conversation. We've got a Vivo that has an awesome spot in that conversation. We've got an Oppo that has an awesome spot in that conversation. I feel with a little bit of tweaking to Samsung software, you've got the Galaxy, which is an awesome spot at that conversation.
Yeah.
Like that capability I think is getting overlooked because we keep letting people do just basic stupid point and shoot camera reviews. And the second you go just one teeny layer deeper, what you can do on these things is absolutely astounding. So I don't want to yuck someone's yum if foldables are really your thing and that's what you're excited to do. But the position on my channel, that's where I'm going to focus because that's where I'm having more fun.
No, absolutely.
I'm not
and I
having
feel
as
like
much fun with the idea of foldables. I'm having a lot of fun with the cameras.
And I will. So my position is slightly different than yours, and I'll follow it by saying is my focus on devices has been more and more leaning towards that secondary camera and more of that the camera with the phone around the camera. The 13 Ultra, the Find X6 Pro, and the X90 Pro are baller devices. They have each their own individual use case, and I specifically will gravitate to one over another depending on what I need to do. It's like grabbing a lens, grabbing a camera for what you want to do and shoot with. The reason why I'm not getting the Pixel Fold isn't necessarily that I'm not intrigued. I am intrigued in their approach. But it also always comes back down to the budget, the lab, or obviously in my situation, I call it the studio. I dropped over, so I did pick up the tablet and I did pick up the 7A. So between the two of those, I'm already $1,100 in. I couldn't justify going in with close to $3,000 worth of expenses at this point. You have to keep in mind when you're buying a lot of your devices, you have to really make a decision, that line of where do I put my money in? Where do I feel like this is going to make me the best ROI?
And don't be like me where you think you're going to flip a phone and then you kind of fall in love with it and then you keep it for like 10 years. That's bad.
Yeah.
Don't be a collector. If you run a phone museum like I do, you're doing it wrong.
No, seriously, I'm having the hardest time. Okay, I've had the 13 Ultra for almost 2 weeks now, right? Literally by Sunday it would be 2 weeks. I haven't put out a video on it yet, right? I've been hard. It's
using it.
It's yes, like it's crazy. So I finally have.
That's
all
what
my
happened to me with the 12S Ultra. I
yeah.
purposely went out of my way to like I'm shooting a video, and I managed to get two. I'm shooting videos on the 13 Ultra because I went like almost a couple months, I think, between getting the 12S Ultra before I really reviewed it. Because the day I got the 12S Ultra, I was shooting an e-bike video. And the footage from that e-bike video came from the 12S Ultra.
Yeah, so that's the same. Yeah, for me, the 13 Ultra has been in other videos.
The same day.
Yeah, I remember.
I got that phone.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was like, I can't let that happen with the 13 Ultra because like, it's too big a chunk of my budget to just sit on talking about it.
So for me, that's basically what's coming out this weekend. I'm going to still shoot a lot of content on the Sony. I'm taking it with me on my trip next week. So there's going to be a photography video on this, focused heavily on not just using it at home, traveling, editing content, a whole bunch of this. So I'm going to shoot for the gaming video to come out first, and then jump into the camera review maybe next week. But the 13 Ultra review is coming out this weekend. So at that I have the content for. But I needed time to enjoy the phone. The 13 Ultra is not a phone you coincidentally get into. And you can't just jump into and say,
nope.
We have multiple apertures in here, and then all it does is it gives you more light or less light. It's not the story. That's not exactly what this is going on. You have to really appreciate it. So, yeah, very much I would say blessed, and at some point or another, if I do get a chance to, I will check out
Yeah.
the Pixel Fold. Right now, the biggest thing that I will say, and I want to leave this with this because I realize we're going a little bit over on this, is the Pixel Fold for me brings excitement for other foldables. And that's what excited me the most about it. I'm happy that Google's finally doing it. And this is the same thing that we had with when phablets were a thing, when the Note was first released.
Yeah.
Samsung released split view, and they had it for 2 years before Google bought it in. But once Google brought it in as the basic core, or the basically core experience of Android, that's when we started seeing the benefit of
Everything
it.
else benefited,
Everybody
yeah.
else benefits. So what the Pixel Fold represents is a better experience for tablets or foldable devices specifically in the going future, and specifically
And it's
for
showing us what like the bare minimum should look. Not, I
Absolutely.
shouldn't say it like that. It's not the bare minimum.
No, no,
but
no.
You know what I
It-
mean?
it-
It's like
it
you need your
shows that the-
foldable to at least
the
compete
core
with
experience.
this.
Yeah, exactly. So when you pick up a
And-
foldable from Honor, from Xiaomi, from anybody else, insert XYZ, you know you're going to have that split screen functionality, drag and drop content from one side to the other. The smooth experience is going to be built into Android. And I think that's the biggest benefit there. The Google tablet brings in that UI improvements that we've been looking for tablets. So hopefully that will also transition. And I think that's what I started seeing. That's why I said I don't think Google's trying to sell, the Pixel Fold like hotcakes. We get excited
Yeah.
about it, but the reality is again, this is where a VS, an Honor VS, will benefit from this. And even a device like this, once we start seeing more functional international models of it, it'll be part of that experience, and
Yeah,
even
for
Oppo can
sure.
benefit. So yeah, I want to kind of leave it with that. That's a lot of the things going on this week. This has been a very busy week for tech,
Yeah.
from Google and other companies trying to jam pack around Google. I was like, see, I can't wait for
It's
next
great.
year, Google I/O. Where
Yeah.
it would be funny if Monday, Tuesday there'll be two major announcements. Wednesday will be Google in the morning, somebody else will be evening, and then it'll be like Thursday, Friday major announcements. Like boo, 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 boo. And nobody goes after, when actually that's not true. That's not true. Google does troll. I forgot what they did last year. They did make an announcement during WWDC. I forgot what it was. There was something that they talked about, like new features or something. And Samsung trying to do the bespoke edition. But anyways,
Right.
it's like bespoke.
Oh, bespoke. On that note, let's end this.
Yeah, I know. we have been spoken for. No. I do want to say thank you very much for everybody for hanging out with us. It has been a crazy week, really, really a lot of fun. We tried to make this into a real person conversation this week, but we weren't able to. So hopefully we'll make some time.
We're
in
going
the
to
next
do a
few-
face-to-face podcast soon. We
Yeah,
just
it's
couldn't
been
stick the
it's
landing
been
on
some
it this
time.
week.
I miss seeing you, man, like in person, real life. So hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Let us know, obviously, what do you guys think. Show notes will give you, obviously, links to both my channels as well as Juan, the Some Gadget Guy, as well as the Patreon. Please make sure to check it out and subscribe if you'd love to check out early access to some of his content. Audio version of the podcast should be up within the next day or so. If you'd like to check it out, please, Replay Crew. But other than that, make sure to catch Juan on Monday with the SGGQA, and we'll see you
Yep.
again here next week for another Best of Our Week. I will be remote on that one, but we'll figure how we're going to do that.
We'll get it done. Yeah, it's
We'll
gonna be
get
good
it
times.
done. No, absolutely. So take care, be safe, stay safe, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.